Welcome back to HyperHive Podcast, everyone. I am so excited for this deep dive. We're going to be looking at Trump, How to Get Rich by Donald Trump.
Oh, this is going to be interesting.
This is going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
We've actually had this book on our list for quite a while now.
Yeah.
And we're finally getting to it. And I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff that we can extract from it. So let's just get into it. What jumped out at you right away as like the biggest takeaway?
Well, I think the first thing that kind of slaps you in the face when you start reading this is Trump's relentless emphasis on work ethic.
Okay.
He's constantly talking about starting young, being passionate, and working hard. He really emphasizes having a tireless drive to succeed.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense because like you don't really build a business empire like his by like sitting around and being lazy, right?
Exactly. And he even tells this story about how he walked like 15 blocks in freezing rain to face a group of bankers during a really tough time in his career. I mean, the guy's got grit. You got to give him that.
15 blocks in the freezing rain. I mean, that's dedication.
It definitely shows a certain level of commitment.
Yeah.
Success isn't about always being comfortable. Sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone and push yourself.
Yeah, and it's not like he's the only one, right? I mean, we see this crazy work ethic in a lot of successful people, not just in business. Like, think about Olympic athletes or like even artists and scientists. They all seem to have this fire in their belly.
Absolutely. That drive and determination is a common thread among high achievers.
So we've got the work ethic, the passion, the drive, but
Yeah.
you can't build an empire all by yourself, right?
Right.
Trump talks a lot about building a strong team too, right?
Oh, yeah, he definitely emphasizes that. And it's not just about hiring anyone, it's about surrounding yourself with really competent people. He talks about the importance of delegation and recognizing talent.
And he gives some pretty interesting examples, right?
He does. He mentions Matthew Calamari, who started as a security guard and worked his way up to become an executive vice president. And there's Vinny Stelio, who was a bodyguard and then became a vice president.
I mean, those are some pretty big jumps.
They are. And it just shows that Trump believes in giving people a chance, regardless of their background, if they have the talent and the drive.
So it's not just about fancy degrees and resumes. It's about recognizing that raw talent and potential.
Spot on. And you know what else is interesting? He actually tells a story about a boss who wouldn't let anyone disturb his star employee, not even for coffee.
Wait, seriously? Not even for coffee?
Nope. Because this employee's thinking time was considered so valuable that he didn't want anything interrupting his flow.
So, like, no more coffee breaks at HyperHive. Just kidding. But seriously, that's pretty intense.
The real takeaway here is understanding your team's strengths and creating an environment where they can thrive.
It's about recognizing that different people work in different ways and finding ways to maximize everyone's potential. Okay, that makes sense. But I gotta ask, how does this whole team player thing fit with the image of Trump as, well, kind of an intimidating figure?
Right. He doesn't exactly strike you as the touchy-feely, collaborative type.
Exactly.
But here's the thing. Trump actually advocates for an open-door policy. He encourages employees to come to him with ideas and share their thoughts.
Really? That's not what I would have expected.
I know, right? But there's a catch. He's all about being concise and respecting his time. You got to get to the point quickly and make it worth his while.
So it's like, you have the floor, but make it count. Don't waste the boss's time with fluff.
Precisely. It's about being clear, concise, and compelling. And it's a valuable skill to have no matter who you're pitching to.
So we've got the work ethic, the team building, the clear communication. What else is in this Trumpian recipe for success?
Well, let's talk about negotiation.
Oh yeah, Trump is definitely known for his negotiation skills.
He's like a master of the art of the deal. And in the book, he talks about being flexible, trusting your instincts, and not being afraid to break the mold. He doesn't want to be confined by conventional expectations.
And he has a point. I mean, look at what he did with 40 Wall Street. Everyone told him to turn it into apartments, but he went against the grain and turned it into profitable office space.
Exactly. He zigged when everyone else zagged, and it paid off.
That's thinking outside the box right there. But it's not just about being stubborn or refusing to compromise, right?
No, flexibility is key, but it's about knowing your worth and walking away from deals that don't benefit you.
So it's like a delicate dance. You have to be adaptable and willing to negotiate, but also firm in your own goals and values.
Exactly. Now, let's move on to another Trump signature move branding.
Oh boy, the man is practically synonymous with his brand.
He's a master of self-promotion, and he believes in using your name strategically. Think Trump Tower. It's not just a building, it's a statement. The name itself evokes a certain image.
It's like he built his own personal Eiffel Tower.
Right. And in today's world, having a strong personal brand is more important than ever.
So we should all be plastering our names on skyscrapers. Just kidding. But what are we actually supposed to do?
It's not about the skyscraper. It's about the principle. You need to cultivate a distinct identity and showcase your strengths. Make sure you're memorable. Think about what makes you stand out.
So it's about crafting your own personal brand, whether you're an entrepreneur, a freelancer, or even climbing the corporate ladder.
Exactly. It's about standing out from the crowd and making a lasting impression.
Work ethic, team building, negotiation, branding. This is a lot to take in. But it's starting to feel like a blueprint for success, even if it's coming from, Donald Trump.
Well, buckle up because we're just getting started.
What's next?
We're diving into the land of positive thinking and overcoming fear. Trump is all about maintaining a positive attitude even when things are tough. He's got that whole never give up mentality.
This guy's got his own internal pep talk going on 24/7.
He does. And it's actually pretty contagious.
I can just hear him saying, "You're a winner. You're going to crush it."
You're getting it. He really believes in the power of positive thinking and the importance of pushing through self-doubt.
So are you saying we should all channel our inner Donald Trump?
Maybe not in every way, but there's definitely something to be said for his unwavering self-belief and his ability to bounce back from setbacks. And he wasn't always this fearless. He even admits that he used to be terrified of public speaking.
Wait, seriously? The guy who seemingly never stops talking was afraid of public speaking.
Yep. It just goes to show that everyone has their fears. But the key is to confront them and find ways to turn those weaknesses into strengths.
Okay, I'm starting to see a pattern here. A lot of this advice isn't just about making money. It's about building a fulfilling life and finding work you're passionate about.
That's a great observation, and that actually segues perfectly into what we'll be discussing in part 2, finding success with significance. We'll be back after a short break to explore that and more, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the HyperHive podcast. We're continuing our deep dive into Donald Trump's How to Get Rich. Last time, we talked about work ethic, team building, and that Trumpian brand of confidence.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground. But I'm ready for more. What other gems did you uncover?
Well, this one might surprise you. Trump actually places a lot of emphasis on continuous learning.
Wait a minute. Isn't this the same guy who's been quoted saying he doesn't have time to read books?
Right. It seems kind of contradictory, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
But he might not be a bookworm, but he definitely consumes information like crazy. Newspapers, magazines, anything to keep him in the loop. He even mentions finding inspiration in Aldous Huxley.
Aldous Huxley, the Brave New World guy.
Yeah, him. And what's interesting about that? Huxley had really bad vision problems, nearly went blind, but he learned Braille and kept on learning.
Wow, that's dedication. So I guess the takeaway here is that learning isn't just about formal education. It's about that constant desire to grow and expand your knowledge no matter what.
Absolutely. And for Trump, it's not just about hoarding information, it's about applying it. He's big on understanding the process behind everything, whether it's building a skyscraper or making a deal.
It makes sense, right? We often get caught up in celebrating the end result, but we forget about all the work that goes into it.
It's like admiring a delicious cake, but forgetting about all the mixing and baking that went into making it.
Okay, so what's Trump's secret sauce for mastering the process?
Well, first and foremost, do your homework. He learned that from his dad, who is big on thorough research and preparation. Know the ins and outs, the limitations and possibilities of everything you do.
So it's like being prepared to play the game, but also knowing how to bend the rules a little.
Exactly. And he uses this kind of quirky analogy to illustrate the importance of listening and observation. He calls it listening to a ping pong game.
Okay, now you've got my attention. A ping pong game. How does that relate to business?
It comes from a story about a friend of his who, as a kid, could predict who would win a ping pong match just by listening to the sound of the ball.
Wait, seriously? Just by the sound?
The point is, by really tuning in, paying attention to those subtle cues, you can gain valuable insights, whether it's a negotiation, a competition, or just observing the marketplace.
So it's about reading between the lines, picking up on those unspoken messages.
Exactly. And this applies to everything. Networking, building relationships, analyzing trends, even just making everyday decisions. It's about developing that sixth sense, that ability to anticipate what's coming next.
Okay, we've got learning, process, ping pong listening. What else is in Trump's playbook?
Let's talk about something that's often associated with Trump, something some might even consider a liability: his ego.
Ooh, this should be good.
He actually dedicates a whole section to this, and it's not what you might think.
I'm all ears. Let's hear it.
He argues that a well-developed ego can actually be a positive thing.
Okay, I'm officially confused.
He sees it as the driving force behind our ambition, our sense of purpose. But it's not about arrogance or being self-important.
So what kind of ego are we talking about here?
He's talking about a healthy ego, one that's grounded in reality. And it needs to be balanced with self-awareness. He talks about surrounding yourself with people who will challenge you, who will tell you when you're wrong. He even encourages poking fun at yourself, not taking yourself too seriously.
Wow, I never thought I'd hear "don't take yourself too seriously" advice from Donald Trump, but I kind of like it.
Right. It's about recognizing your strengths, but also acknowledging your weaknesses and blind spots.
So it's like having a powerful engine, but also a set of brakes.
That's a great analogy. And speaking of brakes, all this talk about pushing limits and crushing it is making me a little exhausted. Is there ever a time to slow down in Trump world?
You know what? This actually leads perfectly into the next point. Trump, despite his image as this always on, always hustling guy, actually encourages readers to make time for reflection.
Sure.
He suggests taking 3 hours a day for quiet contemplation.
3 hours. That's a lot of quiet time.
I know, right? But he talks about the importance of disconnecting from the noise, creating space for thinking and processing. He even mentions that reading is a big part of his reflection time.
But it's not just about zoning out with a good book, is it?
No, it's about actively engaging with the material, thinking critically, connecting the dots. He also emphasizes using this time for self-assessment, analyzing your progress, identifying areas for improvement, setting new goals.
So it's like hitting the pause button, taking stock of where you are and where you want to go.
Yeah, like a mental reset. And it actually makes sense, right? You can't always be on. Sometimes you need to step back and recharge.
It's like that old saying, sharpen the saw. You can't keep cutting wood with a dull blade.
Okay, I'm starting to see the value in this whole reflection thing. Maybe I'll ditch the doom scrolling and spend some time with a good book instead.
I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Now, ready for something a little lighter. Let's talk about Trump's take on style and personal presentation.
Oh, this should be interesting. The man has a unique sense of style, shall we say.
He does, but he dives into this whole dressing for success thing, and it's actually surprisingly insightful. He starts by admitting that he used to be pretty frugal when it came to clothes.
Wait, seriously? Mr. Gold-plated penthouse thought suits were too extravagant.
You'd think so, right? But he learned that investing in high-quality clothing, especially shoes, is actually a smart move.
So it's quality over quantity.
Absolutely. Well-made clothes last longer, look better, and project an image of success and attention to detail.
So it's not about being flashy or trendy. It's about presenting yourself in a way that aligns with your goals and your brand.
Precisely. He even talks about his love for Brioni suits, which are known for their quality and tailoring. But here's the thing. While he believes in investing in quality, he also recognizes that style is personal. He tells stories about people in his organization who have very different styles, from the Canadian Mountie look to the surfer dude aesthetic.
So it's not about conforming to a specific mold, it's about finding what works for you.
Exactly. It's about authenticity and expressing your individuality. Which, I gotta admit, is kind of refreshing coming from a guy known for, well, being larger than life.
Okay, I'm starting to rethink my entire wardrobe now. Maybe it's time to ditch the sweatpants. But before I go on a shopping spree, let's talk about some practical financial advice. What does Trump have to say about money matters?
Well, let's just say his advice comes from someone who's had his share of financial ups and downs.
Yeah, that whole billions of dollars in debt thing. So how did he climb out of that hole? What's the secret?
First, don't make impulsive investments, especially in areas you know nothing about. He tells the story about advising Herschel Walker, the football player, against investing in a fast food franchise.
And I'm guessing that didn't end well.
Not at all. The company went under a couple of years later. Luckily, Walker had listened to Trump's advice and didn't lose everything.
So stick to what you know, do your research, and don't believe everything you see on late-night TV.
Right. And speaking of potentially bad advice, he's also wary of financial advisors who might not have your best interests at heart.
Yeah, it's like that saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly. Rely on your own judgment, do your own research, and be skeptical of anyone promising easy money.
So don't put all your eggs in one basket and always get a second opinion.
And here's a tip that's still relevant today. Check out reliable publications like the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, and Fortune for financial news and information.
It's kind of funny because those publications haven't always been the biggest fans of his business practices.
I know, right? But it shows that even someone as self-assured as Trump sees the value in seeking out different perspectives.
Okay, what else?
This next one is classic Trump. Cut out the middleman whenever possible.
Oh, I knew that was coming. He's all about the art of the deal.
He tells a story about Wayne Newton, the Las Vegas entertainer. Newton was having some financial troubles and drowning in legal fees.
Ouch, that's tough.
Trump advised him to go directly to the bankers and cut out the lawyers who were bleeding him dry.
And did it work?
It did. Newton was able to strike deals with the banks and avoided financial ruin.
So sometimes the most direct approach is the most effective.
Exactly. It's about taking control of the situation, understanding the needs of the other parties, and finding a solution that works for everyone.
It's like being your own advocate.
Right. You got it. So we've covered a lot of ground here. From the importance of continuous learning and reflection to some practical financial advice, it's been a surprisingly insightful journey into the mind of Donald Trump.
I have to admit, I went into this expecting a lot of bravado and self-promotion, but there's actually some really solid advice here. And even glimpses of, dare I say, humility.
That's the thing about these deep dives. You never know what you're going to find. It's all about being open-minded and looking beneath the surface.
Exactly. And there's still more to come. We'll be back in part 3 to explore Trump's thoughts on family, loyalty, and achieving success with significance. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the HyperHive podcast for the final part of our deep dive into Donald Trump's How to Get Rich. We've talked about work ethic, branding, negotiation, even his ego.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, but now we're getting into some uncharted territory.
Yep.
Trump's views on family, loyalty, and finding success with significance.
He actually spends a good chunk of the book talking about his upbringing, the values his parents instilled in him, and the importance of family.
It's like we're getting a glimpse behind the curtain, seeing a softer side of the Donald.
Exactly. And he even shares some personal anecdotes about his children, like how he encouraged them to work summer jobs, instilling that work ethic from a young age.
So it's not just about building businesses, it's about building character.
Right. And he also mentions his daughter Ivanka's dedication to ballet, which required a ton of discipline and hard work.
It shows that he values commitment and pushing yourself to reach your full potential, no matter what you're passionate about.
And even though his kids grew up with privilege, he talks about giving them budgets, limiting their credit cards, teaching them financial responsibility.
It's like, sure, you're a Trump, but you still got to learn the value of a dollar.
Exactly. It's not just about handing them everything on a silver platter.
So he's preparing them to be successful in their own right, even if they don't follow in his footsteps.
He makes it clear that it's their choice whether or not they join the family business. It's about providing opportunities, not dictating their path.
I like that. It's about empowering them to make their own decisions.
And he even talks about his daughter Tiffany, who lives in California with her mom. He mentions making an effort to include her in family trips and activities.
It's like no matter how busy or successful you get, family still matters.
It's about those connections, those bonds that go beyond just blood ties. And that actually leads into his thoughts on loyalty, which he considers crucial in both business and personal relationships.
It reminds me of those stories we discussed earlier about Matthew Calamari and Vinny Stelio.
Yeah, those guys who started from the bottom and worked their way up.
It seems like he really values people who have proven their loyalty over time.
He does. He talks about recognizing and appreciating the people who have supported him along the way, from family to employees to longtime business associates. He even mentions some unexpected friendships, like the one he has with Wayne Newton.
Wayne Newton, the Las Vegas guy.
Yep, that Wayne Newton. It just goes to show that there's more to Trump than meets the eye. He's capable of forming genuine connections, even with people you might not expect.
It's like beneath that tough exterior, there's a human being who values relationships and loyalty.
Exactly. And that brings us to the final piece of this Trumpian puzzle, achieving success with significance.
Okay, this sounds interesting. Like taking success to the next level.
He talks about using your success to make a positive impact on the world, whether it's through philanthropy, job creation, or just inspiring others.
So it's not just about accumulating wealth or building a name for yourself. It's about giving back and making a difference.
He talks about his involvement with the New York Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund and his commitment to honoring veterans. He also mentions that one of the reasons he did The Apprentice was to inspire a new generation of entrepreneurs.
So there's a desire to leave a legacy, to contribute something meaningful beyond just financial success.
And he ends the book with a really powerful call to action, urging readers to find their passion, work hard, and use their talents to make a difference. It's a surprisingly inspiring message.
I have to admit, I went into this deep dive with some pretty low expectations. But honestly,
Right.
I'm pleasantly surprised.
Me too. There's actually a lot of practical wisdom and even moments of genuine insight buried beneath all the bravado.
It just goes to show that you can find valuable lessons in the most unexpected places.
And that's what HyperHive is all about. Exploring different perspectives, challenging our assumptions, and always learning something new.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into Trump, How to Get Rich. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe to the channel. And be sure to check out our website for show notes and links to all the resources we mentioned. We'll see you next time on HyperHive.